What's up, YouTubers? Rich from 2RC Productions here today, and we're going to change gears a little bit, do something a little bit different. I'm going to do kind of a tutorial slash review slash just kind of talk about something here. All of us that work on RCs and other hobbies, whether it's trains, model cars, slot cars, whatever, and a lot of people on crafts, you know, or woodworking, steelworking, whatever, use a rotary tool. Most of us know the name Dremel. That is a big name in this category. And this is what I had. I had this multi-pro single speed, which works. More of a workhorse, more for, you know, if you got to really take something down, take some steel, take some wood down. It's a good unit, American made. Was started in Wisconsin many years ago by a gentleman, and he kind of cornered this market, the rotary tool design. And since then there's been many of spin-offs. You know, each company has their own brand, and Sears Craftsman has them. So anyway, this still works, but the problem with this is, for hobby grade items and light plastic, it's a single speed. When you turn this thing on, it's got a lot of vibration in it. You know, it's vibrating the heck out of your hand, and it's very tough to do fine adjustments or something you want to be real precise with, not take too much material. It's a little bit difficult. It's loud and it vibrates a lot. So what I've been using mostly is I use like a 4-inch grinder, and I like, even for the stretch box, when I cut the stretch box body, I used a 6-inch cutoff wheel, which I'm very comfortable using because I use them all the time at work. But definitely when you're doing smaller stuff, it's much easier to have something like this. So I don't have any attachments left for this. This thing was kind of sitting, and I happen to be out, and I'm not a big China guy. I like to buy things American made when I can. Unfortunately, most of the things nowadays are made in China. So I happen to be out, actually heard about this, and then I had to check it out. So I went to Harbor Freight Tools, which buy a few things from there from time to time. And probably the last thing I bought there was my radio control bolt, the Neptune, I bought from there. So they have this rotary tool advertised. Chicago Electric, which is a China company. It's made directly for Harbor Freight. I wasn't expecting much out of this, in the fact that it's a rotary tool 9.6 volt cordless unit with 70 accessories, rechargeable battery, extension tool, case. Comes with all these accessories. It's got the stones and the diamond bits and the sanding and the buffing and, you know, cutoff wheels. It's got the whole deal. And then it comes with a NiCad battery, which is not, obviously in today's times, is not the best. You got NiCad, you got nickel metal hydride, and then you get into lithium polymer and stuff like that. But this is probably the worst part about it, is that it has a NiCad battery. But the great part about it is it's rechargeable. So it, you know, and you can put the battery on there, and then it gives you the freedom to do whatever you need without having a cord hanging off of it. So you see the unit. The main selling point, two main selling points, is the price. $29 for everything you see here, with the charger. And I'm gonna get onto that. The next part is what I'm getting to. Comes with this wall charger. The cool thing about it is it's variable speed. You start off at 0 and you kick it up, and it switches on, and you could run real low speed, and it's extremely balanced for a cheap unit. And then you increase your speed all the way. I mean, now it's flying all the way. I think it's 30,000 RPM or something at high speed. But for doing a lot of the hobby grade stuff like we do, it's nice to have that variable speed. So it's got the lock for the chalk to lock it in place, spin to collet. Like I say, it's got the NiCad battery. You just unplug it, put it in there. And getting on to what I'm getting on, I pulled a 20% coupon on this, so you get a few more dollars off. I mean, extremely cheap. I figure for what I'm going to be using it for, modifying bodies and small parts and little screws, maybe sanding something, cutting something, this might be the perfect unit for the hobbyist. So having said all that, the major weakness with this is this charging setup. There's no shut off. You have to monitor it. It takes 3 to 5 hours to charge this nickel metal hydride. You have to monitor it. You can't just leave it, or it'll just keep charging, and you never really know if it's fully charged because it's not a peak charger. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to make a connection, very simple, to adapt it to one of my little basic chargers here, and this is a Tower Hobbies AC/DC peak charger. It is model number TOWPO160, and it goes for like $22, $24. And I've recommended this before to people as a great entry level charger. 1, 2, and 4 amp settings on it. Nickel metal hydride, NiCad from 4 to 8 cells, NiCad, and it'll charge up to 9.6 volt, which is what I am here. So it'll only charge 4 amp if you hook up to a DC power source like your car battery. AC, it charges a 2 amp rate, which works good on smaller items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an EC3 ECX connector that I have already cut off from something else and I had it sitting. I always save connectors because you never know when you're going to need them. And I looked down there in the connector and it's got the stripes going down. A lot of you have seen this type of plug. The stripe side is the positive side of the connector. And then I have another one that I cut off from a battery. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this connector. Actually, these are, I'm going to take this connector, take this off, and I'm going to splice. They have this plug here, and I'm not going to disrupt the charger. I'm going to keep this intact. And I'm basically going to take this cord, cut this cord, and attach the connector to this so I can plug it into my charger and charge this on a peak setup and see how that works. So I'm going to clear all this stuff off. I just wanted to give you an idea. Oh, the other cool thing I forgot to tell you about this is it has a little LED collar. You can take the standard collar off and then put this on there for close work so you can actually see what you're doing, which is also another nice feature. They're not rechargeable. They're the little 3 volt, little chrome batteries. You got to change them out when they wear out, but they last a while. So that's a cool little feature for all that you get. I mean, it's like I say, I'm not a big China guy. I hate to buy China stuff, but for a price like that, for how often I'm going to be using it with the features, it's like almost impossible to pass up. I had to try it just to see what it's all about. So I'm going to clear this off, and then I'm going to get these connections spliced up here and put together, and we'll see. I'll check back in, let you know how this is working out. Probably pan through it some of the steps here. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire strippers. I got 2 pairs. I got the small pair for the light gauge, and then I got the larger pair for the larger gauge, thicker wire. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this, like I said, we don't want this wall plug anymore. So I'm going to take ample wire here. There's no reason to have it too short. I'm going to cut that off. This plug I'm going to throw in the garbaggio because I know I ain't going to use that for nothing. And then what we want to do is we want to take and strip these wires back. What you can do is you can take these, cut right down the middle a little bit there, and then you pull these 2 back, get some separation in there. Take your smaller strippers, looks like about maybe 22 gauge, we'll say 24 gauge. Strip back about a ½ inch or so. These things work awesome, these Kleins. So you take the bigger pair, do the same thing. These actually work pretty good too. These were my dad's years ago. He gave me this pair and I've had them for years. I've been using them and they work really well. So anyway, there's our connections there. Now what I have to do is splice the positive and positive. I'm going to get my soldering gun set up. The heat shrink tubing. We'll solder these joints together. Then we will take this. This will plug into our charger. This will go to here, and then this will plug into my charger with the Tamiya lead with ECX, plug back into here, and we should be in business. And then we're going to let this baby charge up and see what we got. Alright, what we got here is I took the larger heat shrink tube and I cut 2 pieces about 1 inch long or so, and then slide those on there. And then what I'm going to do is, because I have 2 different gauge wires, because it's what I have to deal with and what I have to work with here, is I'm going to use 2 different size heat shrink tubings and overlap them. And it should work out just fine. So we'll take this, we'll cut this in small pieces, we'll stick it over the top of these 2. And then I always use a lighter for the heat shrink tubing. You can use a heat gun or you can use a lighter. Lighter's real easy, and I'll show you that. So I'm going to get these all made up, get my soldering gun up here set up with solder and everything, and we'll get this put together. Alright, YouTubers, I'm back here, and I got my flux out here. You always got to have your flux when you solder, and this is what I use. I have a Weller. It's a universal 140, 100 watt, 2 heat with a light, actual gun. And I love it because it heats up within seconds. You see it's already steaming in a matter of about 3 seconds. A lot of guys like the stations, use the stations. A lot of guys use the irons. This has different attachments, different tips to put on. It has a ton of power. I use it on automotive stuff. I use it on this. You know, so works great. So what I'm going to do is just heat this baby up a little bit. Get a little solder melted on the end. I got my wires looped together. And I'm just going to dab some solder across these and get them, yeah, it's nice. Get them all soaked up nice so they stick. And this wire's pretty thick, so I'm going to do both sides. Get a little more solder on there. Flip it over. I'll make sure it's completely encapsulated. Completely encapsulated with solder there. Everything looks good. It's nice and stuck. This one here, this side, I'm going to put a little bit more on there, just to make sure that it's all the way around. Dip that in the flux there a little bit for a second. And the flux just keeps everything clean. A little more on there. I have a little problem with my GoPro here, so I apologize the jumpy video. I don't know what's happening, but every so often it'll do it. It'll just shut off in the middle when I'm taping for no apparent reason. I don't know why. Weird thing, YouTubers, I almost think that my gun somehow is interfering with the Bluetooth signal or something, because I would hit the trigger and then all of a sudden my camera's shutting off in the middle when I'm talking here. So if it doesn't shut off now, that's probably what it was. So here, it's all set. Here's the heat shrink tubing, doubled up, small and a large. I'm going to try to melt it all together. Let's go from the large side. You don't need real. Okay, that's working great there. You can kind of squeeze it in there to help it, you know, mold to the wire itself. It only takes a few seconds, but this heat shrink tubing is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it works great. You can see how it's all kind of became one piece now, which is great. And you don't have to worry about nothing shorting out or arcing, and you always got to be careful with your wires. You don't want to unnecessarily pull on them, or, you know, see guys at work, you know, picking up power tools by the cord and stuff like that. Well, then you're asking for trouble. I want to take this time to give a little shout out to Jeff Thorpe. We had a little contest. Not really a contest, but I asked everyone's help in naming my Unimog. So after a week or two of suggestions and votes and narrowing it down, the name of my Unimog is the Junkyard Mog, and that's all Jeff Thorpe. He came up with that name. So I want to take this moment to thank Jeff Thorpe, and from now on, that Unimog, I'm going to pull it over here and show you a little shot of the body. It will be forever named the Junkyard Mog. And you guys have seen this on Google Plus. I've been working on it. I still have some more work to do to it, but it's getting close. The chassis has not been started yet. I've been using the mock-up on my lunchbox chassis, so I will be building this Unimog chassis next. That's a little shot of the Mog there. I like the way it turned out. I wanted to give it a real weathered, almost kind of sinister, like end of the world, zombie apocalypse looking type thing. So that's that. And alright, let me pull my soldering gun out of the way here and stuff. We got this connection all made up. I'm going to plug everything up right here on the bench and make sure that we're good and see if it works. Alright, YouTubers, we're back. Got my charger set up here, plugged in. Separated the NiCad from the unit itself. We have our lead hooked up here. I have, let's see, this, here's my other connector. So here is the little charger base that they give you with this battery. So I want to string this out. I want to plug this back in like they have it. This way I didn't affect the base at all. It's still the way it came from the factory. The only thing I did was modify the lead. So I'm going to plug that in. I am going to plug the battery in the charger, which the light lights up red already. But I'm not going to pay attention to this light anymore, because what I'm hoping works is by plugging this into this base. And let's see here, now I got to plug this into this, which is that connector, and now you can see my charger light blinking. What I'm hoping, see it blinking? That means it's not charging yet, it's waiting to be charged. So I'm hoping when I hook the power source, I'm just starting off with a 1 amp charge. That'll probably be enough. And then I'll see how long it takes to charge, and if it takes too long to charge, then I'll try the 2 amp rate. So we're going to plug this in now, and hopefully everything is good. And it is charging. The light is on right now. It is charging, so that means everything is right. My polarity is right. It's charging the battery right now. This light's still lit because that's the way it should, so I basically bypassed the wall charger. So I'm going to let this run here for a little bit, and I'm going to time it right now. It is 10:10 a.m. Sunday morning. So I am going to, oh, I'm sorry, it's actually 11 time because we had a time change. Sorry about that. So I'm going to let this run now and see if it takes 15, 20 minutes, whatever. It will peak out now. And people are complaining about this battery not lasting long and taking too long to charge. Well, because they were probably never getting a full peak on it. There's no way to tell. There's no way to tell that that wall charger is even working, really. It could be just running and running, putting a semi-half charge in there, and then you get it, and it wears down real quick. So this is the way to do it. All right, so we'll check back in a few. All right, Rich from 2RC Productions back, and it took about an hour, a little less than an hour. I actually started on a 1 amp, and I bumped it up to a 2 amp about halfway through. But there was some charge in the battery already, so I don't really have an accurate read on that, and I might use my other charger and go to 4 amp and try that, because the battery, it false peaked, and that's the one great thing about peak chargers, is it false peaked early, and then I restarted it, and it charged for another 15 minutes probably, and then kicked out again, and the battery wasn't even barely warm to the touch. So usually, you know, NiCad nickel metal hydride, they start getting warm when they're reaching full peak. But NiCads are a little different. You don't always get the full charge out of them right away. It takes time to cycle them through. And NiCads have real bad memory effect, meaning that when you charge it, you need to run it all the way down to 0 and then charge it all the way back up and all the way down to 0. It's not like nickel metal hydride where the power bleeds off. You can kick it back on the charge halfway through and it's fine. So NiCads are all we used to have back in the 80s. The only battery they had when I started in the hobby was the Tamiya hard case hump pack 1200 milliamp 6-cell battery, and it was a NiCad. That's all they had. So the technology is not really there with this battery, but for the price, I think it came to, like, with the discount, it was like 25 bucks or something, or 26 bucks. So I mean, can't really beat it. So what I want to do is I put a little cutoff wheel on there. I haven't even used this thing. I am going to sample it with you guys right here on my junkyard Mog. When I spliced the bed together, I cut it down. I got a little tab here that I want to take off. Always remember when you use tools like this to use safety glasses. You don't want to take a chance of something flying apart and particle getting your eye and cutting your eye or whatever. Another thing I want to stress. Manufacturers obviously don't recommend modifying the charger like I did here to get this to work. And you have to be very careful of, obviously you have to take note of your voltage, what your battery is itself, if your charger can handle it. And like this one is stamped right on the front. They don't always do it though. You might have to look in your manual. 4 to 8 cells, NiCad and nickel metal hydride. So I knew that the charger would be okay. You never want to take something like this and hook a LiPo charger up to it, or a whatever, a charger that's not capable of doing it. So always do your due diligence to make sure when you're messing with electrical and voltage and everything else that you're not going to mess anything up, or yourself, or start a fire or whatever. So I have my safety glasses on right now, and I'm going to tip this up, and we're going to fire this thing up first time I've used it and see what it does. So you just basically, you go, wait, which way is it? Oh yeah. You kick it on. That's low speed. I'm going to start out low speed because it's just plastic. Yeah, it seems kind of low. Bump it up a little bit. And the other thing is you don't want to overburden the tool. see, that's better. See that? Nip it away at that plastic a little bit. It's actually working really well, and I am at about 4, and it goes all the way up to 8 or 10, I think. Just nip away at the plastic. I just wanted to give you an idea. You can almost use it as like a sander. It's the cutoff wheel. Cut like that, go right along the edge and cut. They actually work really, really well. So it goes from 1 all the way up to 10, and it's very smooth, man. That was one of my gripes with the, let me plug this Dremel in real quick. This thing had 1 speed, and it vibrates so bad that it, make sure this thing's off. Always want to make sure your stuff is off before you plug it in too. You don't want it taken off the bench on you and cutting you or something. Just plug in here. Okay, now. This one's, it's got a little bit more vibration, but it's not terrible. But the downside is it's only 1 speed. It's not too bad, but it's only 1 speed. That's the downside. And you have a cord plugged into it that you got to be dragging around. You know, on the bench, it's not that big of a deal. I'll still probably use this from time to time. And I don't even know how this is going to last over time. Now, one thing I want to take mention of here is I'm not boasting about this tool saying the longevity is there or the quality is there over time. I don't know. I just bought it and we're just trying it, and I'm sharing it with you as I have it. So definitely an option to check out. Let me know what you guys think of the product itself, the mod that I did to the battery, and let me know if you want to see more on this. Maybe you're like, who cares, I have my tool and I don't need to see anything more. If you want to see more on this, updates over time, how I use it, you know, and how it lasts, let me know. So it worked really good. I just shaved the body up there and it looks perfect. One other thing I want to take mention of is I want to give a shout out to Tim Gluth. He is from RC Noob. He has podcasts. He has his own website. He has a YouTube channel, RC Noob. RCNoob.com is his website. He had me on a few weeks ago, and I wanted to take mention in one of my videos. He had me on as a guest on his podcast, and it was an absolute blast. And I had a great time, and I appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for having me on. Can't thank you enough. It was really, really fun. And those of you who have not heard it, check out rcnoob.com. Look for the episode 26, Rich from 2RC Productions podcast interview with Tim. And check out all his other ones. Obviously, he's got 26 of them out there now. And might be 27 now. And check them all out because he does a real great job interviewing people, and he has some real interesting guests on there. So, all right, that's about ends the video for today. Want to do something a little bit different, get off pace a little bit and show you something a little bit different, and it is related to hobby, and pretty much everybody that builds kits or modifies cars or trucks or whatever can find a use for something like this. So, all right, till next time, Rich from 2RC Productions. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and comment in no particular order. And Rich here, signing out.